Good afternoon, Michael Garcia here with the Hispanic Vote. We're going to continue our series of interviews with community leaders, elected officials here. And today we have the pleasure of having Sarahnell Murphy with us. So Sarahnell is not an elected official yet. Hopefully, she's hoping she's going to be an elected official soon. Sarahnell is running for the State Attorney office. It's the race that has about 10 people in it. So we're interviewing her. And we want to get to know her a little bit. So, Sarahnell, thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell, well, we like to get a little background. Sarahnell, are you married?
I'm married 22 years this month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your husband's name is?
My husband is Rich Merlino.
Okay. And how many children do you have?
We have 2 little girls,
Okay.
7 and 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarahnell, are you originally from Florida?
I am. I'm a Florida native. I grew up on the west coast of Florida in a little town called Safety Harbor that no one's ever heard of. But
Okay.
yeah, but I'm a Florida native.
So your background, Murphy. I'm assuming you're Irish, but I want to let you tell us.
Well, I guess if you just looked at me, you might think that's the case. I'm actually adopted, so I'm a mix of a lot of different things. I got Murphy as my name to my wonderful parents, but as far as my true lineage, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. How long have you been in Broward County?
I came down to Broward County after graduating from the University of Florida in 1990.
Okay.
Seems like I shouldn't say those numbers out loud. And I originally I was going to pursue a career in law enforcement. I came down and I went to the academy, which at the time was down in Little Havana.
Okay.
I graduated and I started working here as a felony probation officer for a few years. That's where I discovered my passion to become a prosecutor.
Okay, so you graduated undergrad, Florida.
Correct.
And then law school, where did you go to?
I stayed here because I was working and I went to Nova Southeastern University Law Center.
So did you go to school part-time or full-time? Well, back then, did they have that?
You know, I don't think they did. I ended up leaving my employment with the Department of Corrections when I enrolled, but I worked about 20 odd jobs, usually at night. But yeah, I graduated there, and I interviewed at state attorney's offices, you know, around the state. I knew that was the position I wanted, and I ultimately settled on staying in South Florida.
Okay. So after you graduated from law school, did you immediately start at the state?
Yes.
Okay. And that's, when we say the state, Mike Sachs's office, is that correct?
Mike Sachs's office, that's
okay.
correct.
So how long have you been a prosecutor?
24 years.
24 years.
Yes, almost 25. August is my anniversary.
So you've never practiced anything else, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. How do you like being a prosecutor?
I love it. It is literally the reason that I went to law school. I was one of those people that was fortunate enough to know what my career path was and what I wanted it to be. I know people don't always know, getting out of especially law school, what they're going to enjoy doing, but I've very much enjoyed working for you and the community for the past 24 years.
What's your current position at the state right now?
My current title is I'm the division chief of our county court division, which is our misdemeanor trial unit. So that puts me in charge of all the misdemeanors in our county.
Okay.
Last year we filed around 35,000 and resolved around 36,000. I'm responsible for our 3 satellite courthouses, north, west, and south.
Okay. What about center?
Central. I'm based. My home base is Central.
Okay.
But I have the responsibility of overseeing those satellites as well.
Will you tell us a little bit more about your experience at the state, because you've been there for some time? So
sure. First and foremost, I'm a trial lawyer. I've tried over 130 cases to verdict that range from misdemeanors to murder. As an administrator, I have served as the chief of my current assignment as misdemeanor trial, as well as the chief of our domestic violence unit. In those capacities, I had the opportunity to supervise hundreds of people over the years, both attorneys and staff members. I also have created and supervised a lot of our diversion programs. I'm pretty proud of my work in that area.
How many people do you supervise currently?
I have approximately 35 attorneys and probably the same number in staff right now, so just under 100, I guess.
Okay. How many attorneys are at the state?
We have just over 200 attorneys.
Okay. So obviously we're dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic right now. So how has the state and more specifically your division made the adjustments to deal with what's going on right now?
Well, fortunately, we had a goal in mind. My unit in particular had a goal in mind of becoming virtually paperless in our work. and it's a project I worked on for about 18 months. So my unit functions day to day. The young lawyers that work there have tablets. There's no more pulling boxes of files across the court.
Oh, no one
Yeah,
cares.
right.
Okay.
So we've managed to become paperless. We did that prior to the pandemic, and it had been working very smoothly. So, you know, I'm pretty proud of that under my leadership, really the transition now to working remotely has been fairly smooth. I have to say we have a wonderful IT unit, and those members have been working countless hours to make sure the whole office transitioned smoothly. But for us, it was relatively easy. So we've been doing that. I personally have been addressing certain issues dealing with the pandemic, such as doing an analysis of our jail population.
Okay.
You know, we don't want to have people incarcerated that they could be out on other conditions that still take into account public safety, but yet don't put them at risk of being ill, or our detention deputies and staff in our jails. So I've been very involved doing that, and several other projects in reference to the pandemic.
How has the pandemic affected your campaign? Because obviously you've been campaigning as well.
Yes. Unfortunately, you know, it affects our ability to literally reach out and touch people. You can't shake people's hands. You can't go to these meetings that you're normally asked to come and introduce yourself to. So that's been a little bit frustrating. I also felt, you know, particularly in the beginning, that it was just inappropriate to, you know, trying to acquire funds from people under these circumstances. So while I continued to work on the phone and gather support and votes, we're doing okay. We're doing pretty well, and moving forward. And now that things are coming a little bit back online, I'm hoping I'll be able to, you know, get out and meet some more of our community.
Make a mad dash to the end.
Make a mad dash, you know.
Can you tell people about your website? So, you know, this
Right.
interview is about 20 minutes, and I know you have a bigger platform, and there are more things that you want to discuss. So we want to make sure people are able to see your full platform and what you stand for. So
Sure. So we're on Facebook, and that's Sarahnell Murphy for State Attorney. The webpage is also Sarahnell Murphy, stateattorney.com. So you can go there, and there's all sorts of ways you can link. If you link on there, there's also ways that you can communicate directly with me.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your community involvement?
Sure. So my community involvement is primarily tied into my work, which is why I think I really credit my success in what I do with a community-based model of prosecution.
Okay.
So throughout the years, the integration with the community has been relevant to my assignments and what's relevant for the community with what I'm doing. So for example, when I was in domestic violence as the chief, I was a member of the Domestic Violence Council there. I participated in events, obviously, with women in distress and kids in distress. As a member of the council, I was actually very honored. They recognized me and gave me the Rebecca Lee Knox Community Leadership Award.
Okay.
For my efforts on behalf of domestic violence victims. One of the diversionary programs that I'm most proud of is the diversionary program that actually I started there.
Okay.
We saw a surge in, you know, batterers have a toolbox of things that they use to keep their victims isolated.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, in my time frame there was a big surge in using immigration status as a weapon
Okay.
against victims who were already afraid of the system and participation. So in creating the diversionary program, it gave those individuals an opportunity not to have to respond to the courthouse and the process, and yet to get the batterer into a batterer's intervention program and hopefully get the counseling that was needed.
Okay. Diversity, and diversity at the state. What's your opinion? And when I say the state, I mean...
I know.
Yeah,
it's not my office yet,
yeah,
but yes,
yes,
yes.
You know, what's your position on diversity? Is it diverse enough? Do you need more diversity? And if you do, what would you do to have more diversity?
Okay.
I want to take your take on it. Everybody has a different take. Some people so I've heard some people say, look, we have diversity. Some people say we need more diversity. I don't know, and that's why I always ask.
No, it's a good question. I think, do we have diversity? Yes, we have some. We don't have enough. Particularly, I think what's lacking at the moment is the diversity in leadership. You know, as far as Hispanic representation, I can think we have one division chief that's Hispanic at the moment. I'm trying to think if there's any others. But we definitely need to do better in that regard, and that has a lot to do with how we go about recruiting and training, and also retention. But certainly, I think our number, don't quote me, but I think it's about 17% as far as representation by Hispanics, and only one chief, and I don't think that's sufficient. I think we need to. Diversity is very important for many reasons. One, it's the right thing to do, and two, you have to have folks that are representative of our community.
Okay.
Because it's a scary process to be involved in the criminal justice system, whether you're the defendant or the victim. So in trying to communicate and trying to educate, and particularly enable victims to walk through the system, you have to have their trust. And that certainly comes much easier if they can look across the table and relate to the
Yes.
person that they're talking to. So I'm looking forward to that, to an expansion in that regard.
Okay. I know there's a bunch of things you want to change, and that's why we tell people to go to the website, and obviously we don't have enough time to talk about all of that. But what's one major change that you want to bring to the state, to the position now that you see, like, this is what I want to change?
I think that the biggest change for me is relating to the community is just my accessibility. You know, you can't build an organization and then just plan to sit at the top of that organization and not be accessible. I'm really proud of my community work over the years of always being accessible personally to address issues of concern. So I see that as a big asset that I possess in my ability to communicate and be accessible and transparent with the community. We need to, build that trust in the system and in our office.
Since you're a prosecutor,
Sure.
I'm gonna give you, this is your closing argument
Right.
to the folks on why they should vote for you, or why you're the best candidate for this position.
Okay. So I'm the best candidate for this position because for this job, experience matters a lot. There's so much more to being a prosecutor than just being a lawyer. Over the years, I've worn many hats, including a social worker, a confidant, a friend, an advocate, and the best way to move forward and implement the necessary changes that we're going to need as a community moving forward is by electing someone who knows how to do that quickly. Someone who's very familiar with the infrastructure and where to go to make those improvements right away. And that person in this race is me. So I guess my closing argument is, I have always been accessible and willing to listen, and I will continue to do that. I think going forward on a community-based prosecution model is the best thing for us to do. We can do a lot better, and I think that effective communication, which will be a great assist with that diversity piece we already talked about, but that communication and that model will get this community to have faith and trust in what we're doing. And it's important as the state attorney that our number one job is to keep you safe, and I can do that based on my experience and based on what I have invested in our community. So I'm looking forward to your support and vote on August 18th, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, and I'm glad you ended it with August 18th. We tell everybody the election is August 18th for the races, because most people think they're in November because of the big general election.
Right.
And we tell people, please, August 18th specifically, state attorney, the sheriff,
Right.
public defender, clerk of the court, supervisor of elections, and the judges.
Yeah,
So
very
18th.
important.
So please go out and vote. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.